Hey guys, so today I want to bring y'all my newest build, which is the Gathering Storms Invoker. This uses Flicker Strike for AoE and mapping, and it uses Gathering Storms and Frostwall for single target. Now, this build is probably my favorite build right now. I keep saying that, but pretty much every build gets better. It's my favorite build right now for the league. It is super fun. It's really fast, and most importantly, it's extremely flashy. Every time somebody comes into the stream and sees the build for the first time, they're like, wow, what build is this? This is so crazy. And to me, this build really is the definition of eye candy. I can't ever get tired of watching this build. Now, the previous build, Glacial Lance, was also really pretty, but this one, I think, takes the cake. And that's because not only are we using the Voltaic Mark and Herald of Thunder tech, but because we're using Flicker Strike, we get to follow that and watch the explosions just blow up the entire screen without having it like be off screen or something like that and missing parts of it. So it's super fun, super satisfying. And on top of that, the single target is going to be a kind of a skill shot type of situation. Most people aren't going to be able to get the one shot very consistently, at least when they're first starting off. Even today, I definitely mess it up, but if you're skilled enough and you are practicing it, you'll definitely be able to get the one shot off very consistently. So that might be a plus to you, that might be a minus to you, but hey, I really enjoy this type of gameplay, so I want to share this build with you guys today. And I do have to give a shout out to these two people, Awesome GI0, who is the one who introduced me to the one-shot setup, and then Asta, who is the one who really kind of brought in the low life setup to make it so that you don't have to do kind of like a weird Trinity setup. So both these people really contributed a ton into the inspiration for this build. So you'll find a lot of similarities to both of them on the build itself. And for anyone who's wondering about the cost for the build, you can definitely get this build started for about like 5 to 10 divs, just like off the bat and doing most of the content in the game. But if you do want to one-shot pinnacles, it's probably going to cost you around 10 to 20 divs. So not a very expensive build, to be honest, especially in this economy. So yeah, overall, a very cheap build. Now, going into my character, this is not Mankey. He is a 95 Invoker with about 207 Dexterity and 223 Intelligence. Survivability-wise, he's at 4.1k Energy Shield, 844 Mana, and he has 231 Spirit. He's rocking 65% evasion and max res for all of it, and chaos res doesn't matter at all because we are a CI build. Now, energy shield wise, 4.1k is pretty low, but there are ways to mitigate that if you really wanted to. And also, to be honest, you're flickering around all the time. You're not really getting hit all that much. So this build with 4.1k is pretty much enough, especially for softcore. Actually, I wouldn't really recommend Flicker Strike for hardcore anyways, but we rarely get to die. Maybe I'll stream like 5 to 6 hours and I'll die like 1 or 2 times within that period of time. So it's pretty survivable for what it is, which is totally fine for me. Now, how do you play this character? Well, for mapping, it's very simple. We have Flicker Strike, which is our main form of mapping, but to start off, we use Storm Wave because we need to get power charges. We have a cast on free setup that will proc whenever we free stuff, which will cast Profane Ritual, and then this will in turn give us power charges. So we start off the map every time using some Storm Waves to get charges, then we can start flickering, and if there's any situation where you don't have any power charges, you can just use Storm Wave again to get some more charges, or if you want, you can even use Gathering Storms if you really wanted to. Now, for single target, that is going to be requiring a little bit of an explanation, and I will show you guys that via my Zesh one-shot that I did on stream. There's a couple of mechanics that go into this that I wanted to talk about. So, of course, you don't need to do this part whenever you're doing a regular map boss one-shot setup. You can just kind of go in and do it. But, of course, for Zesh, we do want to sit here and do a little bit of, rage farming at the beginning. So we drop our frost walls here and do that. And then when Zesh spawns, again, this probably isn't really required for map bossing, but if you want to do pinnacle bosses, this is something that you're going to want to do. You're going to charge up a Gathering Storms first, then you're going to go and charge that so you can get the Shocked Ground. Earlier, I kind of messed it up. I didn't get it right, so it ended up not dropping the Shock Ground. But once you get the perfect timing for your Gathering Storms, you'll always drop Shock Ground. That way, when the boss spawns in, you're able to have him be shocked. But after that, this is going to be the meat and potatoes of the one-shot. So you're going to want to, of course, right, wait for him to start moving. Then you're going to put down some glacial, the frost walls, and it's going to be surrounding you and the boss. In this situation, for mapping, it doesn't really matter too much, but if you're trying to do maximum damage, you want to be right next to him, basically sniffing his butt. Then you want to place the glacial walls on the opposite side of you. So as you can see here, I'm over here on the left, top left. Then I will place the glacial walls on the bottom right wall after that. So you see here, I charge that up. I place the glacial walls. You see where my mouse is, right? We do that. We do an infernal cry. Then after that, you will charge up your Gathering Storms, and then you will attack through him and the walls. And that is how you do your single target. So why does this work, and why do we do it this way? Well, first off, to explain the mechanics of Gathering Storms, how Gathering Storms works is that it has multiple phases for its damage. So it has the dash phase, but it also has the shockwave phase. Of course, you have normal dash, perfect dash. Perfect dash is when you time it correctly, but perfect dash is going to be your first part of your damage, where you just dash in and hit the boss, right? But that's not where the majority of our damage comes from. The majority of our damage comes from actually shockwave. This, how it works is whenever you do your dash, when you hit an enemy, it releases a shockwave around that enemy. And each of those shockwaves do this amount of damage. And in this case, the glacial walls, the frost walls, they are all enemies. So when you dash through them, you are doing shockwaves for every single one that you dash through. And that is why we're able to do a ton of burst damage going into it. Now, because of this, you actually do need to care about how you place your glacial walls. And that's why I was very specific about how you stand in front of the boss. So how it works is that, let's pretend this orange guy right here is Zesht, right? Probably a little smiley face on him. He's an evil dude. So when he's here, you're going to want to spawn your walls around Zesht, basically. So these are basically the frost walls. You're going to spawn them around him as much as you can. Because what'll end up happening is when your character goes through and charges through Zesht, when you use your Gathering Storms, that Gathering Storms will hit the boss, but also hit the ice walls around him. And then these ice walls will all do explosions of damage and shockwaves, and that will basically burst him down. But the reason why the positioning of these walls is so important is because your shockwaves will also break the ice walls, the frost walls. So if your frost walls are looking like this, right? They're just kind of like a random cluster. Well, what's going to happen is if you dash through the walls this way, right? With your Gathering Storms, it will break this glacial wall up here. Let's do the bigger AoE, right? And then it will break this glacial wall and this glacial wall before you can actually hit them. And that makes it so that your shockwave from your Gathering Storms doesn't actually do the damage. That's why you want to be able to not stack it a ton like behind the boss. You just want to have basically like 1 or 2 rows in the behind the boss. So you don't want to make it so that it's too stacked up. That's why, again, we'll draw our Zesht again. You're going to want your glacial wall formations to be kind of around him like this. Honestly, though, in most situations, it's probably going to look more like this, but that's totally fine. These are definitely enough glacial walls to kind of hit him and kill him. But there's a reason why that I tell you to stand right in front of him. And that's because this formation, this kind of like conal formation that happens, is a lot easier to achieve when you stand right in front of him. You stand right here, right? Let's say this character is you. You spawn the glacial walls. The glacial walls will never spawn on you is the thing. So that's why if you stand right in front of him, the glacial walls will kind of spawn like this. They'll make a kind of like a dome around you. That way you can even hit these glacial walls that are right next to you. And then all of these will then do the explosion on the Zesht. You'll hit all of these, right? And all the ones around him. So that's why the placement of the glacial walls is very, very important. In general, for the most part, all you want to just remember is glacial walls to the left and to the right of him, kind of like this. very, very good. I'm going to go and show you my Count Geonor fight. This is for the Citadels, to show you that you actually don't even need this for like the weaker bosses. So when he starts off, I kind of want him to sit still there. I just hit him like that. Oh, he hit me. Put down the glacial wall right there. Boom, bam, right? He didn't even need to be super close to it. And that's because he's got lower HP. You don't need that many glacial walls on him to be able to kill him. So here again, we do this. We stand right over here. And this time, I'm even having him in front or behind the walls. And that's totally fine. Because again, if we hit these walls right here, you're going to be able to grab these front ones. There's going to do the shockwave. Then you're going to hit him with your Gathering Storms, just the main hit. And that'll end up killing him. So when the boss's HP isn't that high, doing it kind of a little bit more carelessly is definitely possible, and you can do it. But if you do want to do the one-shot on tier 4 bosses, you're going to have to be a little bit more meticulous on how you're placing your ice walls. And don't be kind of like discouraged if you don't get it right away, because it definitely takes a lot of practice, as I mentioned. It's going to take practice. You're going to need work on it. But that's the beauty of this build. I think it's cool that there is a little bit of a skill portion to it to make it work. And it feels all that much more rewarding when you're able to do it. Okay, so now that my TED Talk's over, these are the gems. So Gathering Storms, currently I have Execute, I have Close Combat, I have Overextend, Window of Opportunity, and Ambrosia on it. The reason why I always run Ambrosia on it is just because I don't really use it that often. I only use it like once per map. So putting Ambrosia on it is totally fine. It's not going to eat up your mana charges for that reason. We have Flicker Strike, which we have hit and run on to increase our skill speed and attack speed. We have Martial Tempo, again, more attack speed. The more attack speed, the better for Flicker Strike. We have Perpetual Charge. We have Ambush, so that we're always critting the enemies. You want to be able to crit the enemies every single time you hit them, because if you don't, you're doing a lot less damage, because Flicker Strike, it carries the crit that you do on your first hit carries through the entire thing. So you're going to want to crit as high as possible. And then we have Concentrate Effect for more damage. Infernal Cry, I am using Premeditation, Enraged War Cry, Raging Cry, Ingenuity, and Second Wind. For Cast on Freeze, of course, we have Voltaic Mark, Impetus, Magnified Effect, Reach, and Innervate. For the other Cast on Freeze setup, we have Profane Ritual, Overabundance, Energy Retention, Profusion, and Fast Forward. For our Stormwave, we are using Upheaval, Lightning Mastery, Mobility, Primal Armament, and Conduction. And then for Frostwall, we are using Spell Cascade, Font of Mana, Font of Rage, and Arcane Tempo. We are also running Mana Remnants because that is super important for our mana upkeep. If you don't run this, you will be out of mana all the time. And if you run this, you basically have no mana issues. So you're going to want to run this with Dissipate, Magnetism, and Precision on it. And then we run Wind Dancer with Unbreakable and Bludgeon. And then we have Herald of Thunder, which has Embitter, Glaciation, Cold Infusion, Longshot, and Ice Bite. So that's the gem setup, and let's move on to our equipment, right? So for the equipment, you are going to be running a quarterstaff, of course, and the quarterstaff is going to be the most important thing for your entire setup for the one-shot. The other things, your rings and stuff, are important for AoE. So for our quarterstaff, what you are going to want to do for sure is basically try to have as high damage on it as possible, with either like very high elemental damage, very high physical damage. It doesn't matter which one you do. For elemental, ideally, you're going to want to get cold and lightning. And then for physical, it's just physical, right? You can do a combination of the two. Just get the number as high as possible, basically. The combination of the two needs to be as high as possible. Then you're going to want to have increased elemental damage with attacks. That is going to be one of the biggest increases to your damage with anything. So you're going to want to have that. You're also going to want to have crit chance and also have plus levels to melee skills. I would say in general, the order of importance, of course, is damage. It's actually kind of in this order, I'd say. But for the most part, you kind of want to have high physical and damage. You're going to want to have high elemental damage. Then you're going to want to have crit and then melee skills. I don't even have a +7 melee skill. This could definitely be better. My quarterstaff was very, very cheap. Actually, well, I bought it for 15 div, but I've seen ones out there for like 3 to 5 div when you get it at the right time of the day. So this is going to be the majority of your damage for your one shot. Now, for this build, we run a Deepest Tower because we are running the low life setup to get more damage, but you're going to notice, again, we have very, very low energy shield. So if you're not able to get like 4k energy shield at least, I would highly recommend you do kind of like a swap. So during mapping, you could run like a normal helmet, which is why, you know, we have that, and we have 6k energy shield, much more. And then you just swap this in when you're doing like pinnacles or something like that. Even for regular map bossing, you should be completely fine with just a regular helmet. So if you don't want to run with a low life, you can definitely do that. But I choose to run this all the time just because I never have too much of an issue surviving. Now, we have a +1 to power charges for this because we don't run any plus power charges on our build. So this helps us with our flicker strike duration, but it's a luxury. You don't have to get it. It's, you know, if you don't have money, right? You don't need it. And then for our amulet, we are allocating storm charge, more damage, more crit. Very, very good for the build. Then we have energy shield for survivability. But the most important stuff for this is really going to be your +3 to melee skills. That is going to be the most important thing you can run on this. After that, you can also run crit damage, crit chance, whatever you need for your build. But really, the requirement is going to be the +3 to all melee skills. And of course, you're going to want to have as much energy shield as possible to increase your survivability because, again, we do have pretty low energy shield on this build. Now, the thing is, we play Invoker, right? So you're going to want to have a chest armor that has as much energy shield and evasion rating as possible, because that's going to be able to give us our spirit. Because if we don't have that, we have less spirit. Ideally, you're going to want to have at least 230 spirit for this build. Now, if you're unable to achieve that with your budget, at least get 200. Then you can go and take off Wind Dancer and just make do with that. But ideally, again, you do want to make sure you have as high as possible to get 230 spirit. Now, for our rings, we are using ones with physical damage and cold damage. These are basically the same as what I was using for the Glacial Lance build, but that is the ideal lines you want to have on your rings. Physical damage, cold damage, or even like lightning damage, cold damage, either one of those works. Just as high flat damage as possible. If you can squeeze a third line in there, that would be amazing, but that's very, very expensive. So just a physical damage, cold damage, or lightning damage, cold damage. And also an unset ring is very important because, as you can see, we use all of our skill slots. So if you don't have an unset ring, you're going to have to give up one of these skills, which again will probably be Wind Dancer. Or you can do some swaps, right? Because while you're mapping, you don't really need Infernal Cry, or like while you're mapping, you might not need, like, I don't know, Frostwall or something like that. You're okay with not doing the one shot on the map bosses. So ideally, you're going to want to have an unset ring just to get that extra slot, so you can just be a little bit more flexible and have all your skills there. Now, for our gloves, we have Hoa, and it has a +1 to all melee skills. This is very, very cheap, so you should be able to achieve it. It's definitely better than the 1 to 12 lightning damage. Belt, we have Ingenuity, of course, as high percentages as you can on the left and right ring. And then for our boots, of course, energy shield, survivability, movement speed. That's what you're going to want to do. And also for the one-shot setup, we are running the Wastegate double flask setup. So whenever we do the one-shot for pinnacle bosses, again, you don't have to do this for map bosses. I am running a Wastegate with double mana flask. But the thing is, this build, when geared well, you actually don't even need this. You can actually one-shot, which I'll show on the video here. Asta, he is able to one-shot without using this setup at all. So you just need to scale your character a little bit more, and you'll be able to do it. So that is pretty much for our main weapon set. We do have a weapon swap for whenever we put down our ice walls or glacial walls, because for this build we run a Effigy of Cruelty. This makes it so that whenever we blow this up on the bosses, it will get critical weakness. That way we can guarantee a 100% chance to crit on the boss, because if we're not 100% chance critting, then we are not going to be one-shotting very consistently. So you're going to want to have an Effigy of Cruelty for sure on your offhand for that setup. And then for your weapon, you're going to want a wand with as high crit chance as possible and as high cast speed as possible. The reason why we want crit chance is because if our ice walls don't crit, we don't get the crit weakness, which will then make it so that we are not able to one-shot as consistently with our Gathering Storms. So that is what you're going to want on your offhand setup, and you're going to want to have Frostwall linked to that offhand setup. You don't want to have Frostwall on your main hand because, one, it comes out very slow, but also you don't get to take advantage of the effigy of cruelty effects for your attacks. So yeah, that is all the equipment. Now for our tree. Of course, the reason why we're playing this on Invoker is because we are getting the meta skill energy on top of the fact that we get this critical hits ignore elemental resistances. So this makes it so that we don't have to run any Metis energy nodes on the tree. And then this makes it so we don't have a run of Beacon of Aziz, which will then increase our ultimate one-shotting capabilities and single target burst. This build is really cool because it is very flexible and can be run on pretty much any other class, but you know, they're all going to have positives and negatives. So for, I'd say, like the originator, the first person I watched making this build, Awesome GI Zeros, he is running this on Chayula Monk, and the reason why he runs it on that is because you get to leech both mana and your energy shield, making it so that you just have very high survivability and sustainability. This character, Invoker, doesn't have the ability to leech energy shield, so the only way for us to heal is through our potions and using Eternal Youth. So running the Chayula Monk will be a positive on that, but in return, you'd have to run a Beacon of Aziz on your necklace. Now, if you run it on Amazon, you can leech life, but then again, you'll have to run Beacon of Aziz, and you'll also have to run like meta energy skills. But then you gain like the accuracy scaling and attack speed and stuff like that. So you can do it on pretty much any build, but it's just kind of like you have to make trade-offs here and there to make it work. So yeah, we run on Invoker for that reason. And then for our skill tree, of course, we have a skill tree that uses both weapon swaps. For our second weapon swap, we have everything into crit chance, but also we have things for skill effect duration. That way we are able to have our ice walls last as long as possible on, you know, when we place it on the ground. We even have these three for the skill duration as well. Now for our main hand, of course, it's all just going to focus on damage, survivability, on all of that. But for this build, we are running for our jewels. We have a From Nothing Diamond. This will be over on Unwavering Stance, because that way we can get these nodes right here. Finality nodes and the damage against low life enemies. And then we are also running this low life cluster over here because we are running a Deepest Tower setup. We also have a Megalomaniac. I have Authority allocated on it because more AoE means the better our Herald chaining goes. But in general, this Megalo can be used for pretty much anything. You can even not use a Megalo on it. I just like the Megalo because it gives us this. And then I have more energy shield, so we have higher survivability. We also have a Time Lost Sapphire over here, which gives us crit chance, crit damage, and AoE. Crit chance, crit damage are the main ones that are required. The AoE is not as required, so you can go without that. And then we have that here because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 notables, a lot of notables for us to take advantage of. And then basically for the rest of them, it's just going to be mana on kill, crit damage, energy shield, crit chance, anything like that that you need. So yeah, that's the character. Again, it's a little bit complicated, and I talked about a lot of things, especially for the one-shot setup. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask down in the comment section below. I also stream every night on twitch.tv/bselectshiru, so come and ask me questions there. But hopefully you guys enjoy this build. Again, I think this is the most fun build that I've played this season and my favorite build so far. So I would love if you guys would also enjoy it. But that's about it, guys. About wraps up the video. As always, if you enjoyed the video and enjoyed the build, please remember to hit the sub button. It's the best way to support the channel, and it's completely free. I also have a Patreon, and right now my only patron is Mr. Forever Fire SNSD. So if you want to support the channel a little bit more, feel free to enter and join my Patreon. But other than that, I stream every single night again, so come hang out, talk, chat. It's a good time. But if you guys can't make it, don't worry about it. I totally understand, and I look forward to seeing you guys on the next video. But here is a tier 15 map for you guys to enjoy and watch. All right, guys, I'll see you on the next one. Peace. Like a couple free fixes open, just in case anything happens and I die. Fair enough, yeah. Also, I managed to one-shot T4s tonight, and I realized that it was a skill issue. Like I was pretty damn sure it was a skill issue beforehand, but we have confirmed it was a skill issue, is why I wasn't one-shotting T4s. No change equips? Nope. No change. That's hilarious. I know. I mean, it was just basically my frag, my shard, my glacier, my ice wall placement was just really bad. Or not really bad, but just like not ideal. I analyzed Ask's gameplay a little bit more and learned kind of like how he places his walls, and then I was like, okay, let's recreate this, right? And then yeah, the moment I did that, boom, one shot, easy. Oh yeah, last time I was doing this, I told myself I wouldn't run Headhunter anymore in Citadels because of that. But you know what? Fuck it. I have extra lives for a reason, right? Oh my, where am I going? It's good if you one-shot mobs that not them one-shot you. Yep. Ah, this build is so much fun. This build is so much fun. I love this build. Okay. We put on the ingenuity here. I don't want to deal with that bullshit.
You cannot stop
Sir,
us.
get your ass down here.
Take the power that we deserve. We'll see about that. Easy prey.
Dude, I didn't even get the fucking hit on that shit.
I smell your blood.
There it is. There it is. Oh, that's the whatchamacallit? The newly buffed spear.